Hello and welcome to my Throne of Thunder raid guide. My name is Aliena, and in this video I'll show you all you have to know about Megaera, the 5th boss in this new raid instance. We completed this fight with 2 tanks, 3 healers and 5 DPS, but similar raid configurations may work just as well. Meg is a very unique encounter. Meg's a Hydra and all you ever fight are her heads. She has 3 different types of heads: Venom, Fire, and Ice. Killing a head removes 15% of her total health, so you have to fight a total of 7 heads. Which types you fight is completely up to you. You basically pick your own adventure as you go, and each adventure comes with its own kind of nasty. When you get to Meg, you'll see 2 heads hanging out in the front, Ice and Venom. Meanwhile, the Fire head is in the back. Heads in the front will attack with melee attacks and breath, both of which should only ever hit the tanks. The heads in the back will attack your raid with different abilities. When you kill a head, 2 regrow in its place. So if, for example, you kill the green head first, it will disappear from the front, but 2 of them will grow in the back and attack your raid with their inherent abilities. If you then kill a fire head next, 1 of the green heads from the back will move to the front, but you'll gain 2 new red ones in the back, making it a total of 1 venom head and 2 fire heads attacking your raids with abilities. This pattern continues throughout the whole fight. Positioning is, as always, important. The 2 heads in front always need to be tanked. They also need to be faced away from the raid, so the raid doesn't get hit with their various breath abilities. As such, you want your tanks in front of the heads, angling them as much to the side as they can, and your raids spread out in the middle. Let's go over the abilities that the different heads possess. The green Venom head will use an ability called Wrought Armor when it's in front. Wrought Armor deals moderate damage to everyone in front of it, which should only be the tank, but also inflicts a debuff that increases the damage taken by 10%. This effect lasts for 45 seconds and stacks, so multiple buffs taken will greatly increase damage taken. Venom heads in the back will use Acid Rain, which is an AoE ground ability that deals less damage the further away from it you are. Basically, you never want to stand in the green circle on the ground, but standing outside of it, even if you're just barely out of it, is perfectly fine. It'll inflict about 150 to 200k to every raid member. The red Firehead will use an ability called Ignite Flesh when it's in front. Ignite Flesh deals moderate damage to everyone in front of it, again should only be the tank, but will also inflict a dot that deals an additional 30k fire damage for 45 seconds. This effect stacks, so multiple breaths will leave you with a pretty big dot. Fireheads in the back will use Cinders, which deals pretty heavy dot damage on a random raid member. The afflicted person must run to the back of the arena and get dispelled. Once dispelled, Cinders will leave a little fire puddle on the ground that deals damage if anyone touches it. The fire puddle will persist for 1 minute. The blue Ice Head will use an ability called Arctic Freeze when it's in front. Arctic Freeze deals moderate damage to anyone in front of it, again, just a tank, but will also stun anyone that gets 5 stacks of the debuff. Essentially, that just means no tank can tank a Frost Head twice in a row. Ice Heads in the back will use Torrent of Ice, which channels a beam of ice at a random ranged player that needs to be kited. It'll leave ice on the ground that persists for 1 minute. However, Torrent of Ice clears Cinders, and Cinders clear Torrent of Ice. So if a person with Torrent kites it over fire puddles, they will disappear, and if a player with Cinders runs over ice puddles, they too will disappear, so it's possible to clean up the room. Once a head dies, Meg will cast Rampage. This lasts for 20 seconds and inflicts continuous elemental damage to every raid member every second. Your raid should stack up on a designated spot for this to make healing easier. You should also pre-assign a variety of raid cooldowns for each Rampage. There will be a total of 6 Rampages throughout the fight. Rampage damage goes up the more heads are present, so your 6th Rampage is going to hit considerably harder than the first one. For that reason, the strongest raid cooldown should be saved for the last few Rampages. So which strat should you employ to kill Meg? There are many strats and all of them work. It depends on your preference and your raid composition. For instance, if you're heavy on ranged players, you may find that a red and blue heavy strat might work best for you. A fairly common example would be blue-red, green, blue-red. The difficulty here is that with 3 or more blue heads up in the back, you'll nearly constantly be kiting Torrent of Ice. Chances are good that your healers will have to kite often, which leaves tanks without consistent healing, which in turn might cause a wipe. If you go with this strat, make sure your raid members clear up Torrent with Cinders and Cinders with Torrent. While Torrent will only target ranged raid members and healers, Cinders can be on any non-tank, so your melee will have to know how to clear Torrents. We decided to go with a strategy of green-red, 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 green. Killing only 2 types of heads is discouraged by an ability called Hydra Frenzy. Every time you don't kill a particular head, that head gains 20% attack speed. At the end, the blue head we never killed was up to a total of 220% attack speed, which resulted in intense tank damage. Add on top the near constant damage from Acid Rains, and this strategy is very healing intense and requires a good healing team. However, we still found this the easiest way to kill Meg. We had 1 healer permanently assigned to each tank, with our 3rd healer bouncing to whichever tank needed more attention. We got about 3 breaths per phase, and our tanks made sure to always switch off whoever was tanking blue after a Rampage, so they never reached 5 stacks of Arctic Freeze. We decided to use our Bloodlust on the 6th head. This is when there's the most green heads hanging out in the back, 4 in total, and we really wanted to push through this phase fast. We also saved our single target cooldowns such as Pain Suppression, Cocoon, and Void Shift for the end of the fight, when our Ice Head tank was taking a lot of damage. Since we didn't have any Torrents to dispel the Cinders, they just sort of accumulated in the back. We tried very hard not to drop any in the middle of the room, though sometimes we had flukes. In general, you do want to avoid having many Cinders in the middle of the room, since that limits movement for Acid Rain. That's about all the tips I have for this fight. Your raid needs to get comfortable with the mechanics of the encounter, and you have to decide on a strategy that fits your raid composition and strengths. After that, it's all about maximizing healing and damage cooldowns, and of course good communication on your voice chat of choice. I'm putting a link to the whole encounter in the video info in case you want to see how we dealt with the various mechanics in detail. Good luck and have fun!